Next on the Broadway show, Here Comes the Sun. We're talking to the star of the new play Morning Sun, Edie Falco, and more. Plus, because she can, we're sitting down with the new star of Moulin Rouge, Natalie Mendoza. And louder than a bomb, Tick Tick Boom preparing to explode on Netflix. You'll get to know Robin De Jesus. I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is the Broadway Show. We're so glad you could be here for this totally jam-packed episode of the Broadway Show. I'm Tamsen Fadal.
You woke up this morning, got yourself a gun.
The Sopranos is having a moment, a resurgence, thanks to the success of a new prequel film, The Many Saints of Newark. It features performances from some of our favorite Broadway stars, including Tony Award winner Leslie Odom Jr. and Tony nominee Billy Magnuson. But it's one of the stars of the original TV series that's making headlines for her latest turn on the New York City stage. Here's why. The new play Morning Sun features a stacked cast, including Edie Falco, Blair Brown, and Marin. Paul Wontorek caught up with the stars.
That's right, Tamsen. In Morning Sun, Edie Falco, Blair Brown, and Marin play three generations of women navigating life from the same New York City walk-up apartment. I sat down with these three talented performers to find out more. I love this new play you're in. And sounds like it was actually written for you. Is this true? Tell me about this.
This is true, which is the first for me, and I still have a hard time saying those words because it's kind of a big deal, and it's actually very, very moving.
Sure.
I mean, we met a good number of times, Simon Stevens and I, as he was writing the play, and so it's actually based on the life of his sister. Some of the details were also taken from my life, and you know, it's something that he thought I could play easily.
But he's British.
He's British.
This is a very New York play.
It's a very New York play, and he's a man, and it's about women. You know when you hear someone speak English when it's not their first language, there's something often beautiful about the way you can hear something, because they use words that you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I would never think to say it that way, and you can hear it a totally different way. That's the way it feels, having a man, a British man, write this play about women in New York City. He just sees it from a different lens, so hoping that people will be able to feel the newness of that.
As a longtime New Yorker, this play feels extremely authentically New York to me. Written by this British man with these amazing female characters. Do you have that same reaction?
I absolutely do, and you know, there's something, Simon has said it himself, he's like, I shouldn't be allowed to do this on a number of levels. I shouldn't be allowed to write a play about all women, I shouldn't be allowed to write a play about New York. And yet, he is a particular special talent. And what feels to me even more possible with someone who is a kind of witness to something is the capacity to observe very specific details and experiences that maybe someone inside the experience wouldn't. And so what's interesting is that the three of us, me and Blair and Edie, are often being like, this sounds like a British guy, or like, this isn't what New Yorkers would say, or that sort of thing, just to help him along. And yet, I don't consider Simon, like, at this point, a visitor. For the last 15 years that I've known him, every time he comes to the city, we see each other, and that's a long time. And he's been here for long stretches doing plays for years and years and years. So he kind of brings that outsider's love for it, but also he's witnessed the city changing himself.
It also reminds me of Humans of New York, because it's really sort of honoring these regular women that you see them at Dwayne Reed.
It's true. We are looking at that person you see over there, and the fact that you actually completely, generally underestimate who that person is, and that everybody's life is worth having a real look at. There's a lot that's very funny, there's lots that's absurd, there's lots that's very tragic, lots of very boring bits. There's fascinating stuff, there's eccentricities, there's contradictory bits. And I love that he just goes headlong into that about people. The thing that I love about it is the romance of place that Simon captures in this play, because it's like, he's from England, how does he know that was it? Now, when I came here, if I could live in the village, I live in Chelsea, I've lived there for 1,000 years, and the reason because we couldn't afford the West Village. So I sort of get the romance of the West Village, but I love that whole notion of this play kind of being a love letter to New York, but from a whole point of view, not just how lovely it all is.
Just tell me about The Hand on the Map. What's this story?
You know, Simon at some point asked me to put my hand on a map, and he traced it, and I didn't know what the heck he was doing, but at this point I'm like, I'm just gonna go with this. And he followed, it was on a map of the West Village area, the downtown area of New York, and he just followed the path that my fingers made and stopped at places and walked through places, and I don't know if this is something he's done before, but a lot of that stuff that he found along that way has made it into the play.
When you actually read it, what was the reaction to all that?
Well, you know, I came to New York a long time ago. Like, even the places that I am sort of, that I have romantic feelings about, like Rome, Italy. There are people who've lived in Rome forever that are probably like, it's not that great, you know, that place closed and whatever, my heat doesn't work in my apartment. So I have a little of that. Like, I've lived in New York for a very long time, so on some level, this is gonna sound terrible, I'm kind of over it. I mean, the excitement about the West Village is gone. Yeah. For me, it's home, and it's been home for many, many years. So to hear the language of the excitement of somebody who still has that romance about it is very sweet. It's a pretty magnificent area in which I live, you know. I'll occasionally go down one of the side streets and with all the brownstones and the trees and the little, you know, the cobblestones and think, no, I remember, you know, I remember that feeling.
The title of the play is Edward Hopper, a very famous painting of his wife, sort of looking out onto the morning sun.
Right.
How do you think that painting kind of informs the play?
I love that the painting can be anything to anyone. You know, another person would say, it's a new day, she's looking out into this great city where she lives, you know what I mean? And then someone else could look at it and have an entirely other experience of it. And I somehow think that might even be the experience of someone watching this play. There are a million ways to come at all of it. The play is pretty porous in that way, much like the painting is. It can be interpreted any number of ways depending on the individual doing the interpretation.
You told me nothing happened. You said it was all made up. You promised me.
Sure.
You can also catch Edie Falco right now on American Crime Story, Impeachment on FX. During the impeachment of former President Bill Clinton, Edie plays First Lady Hillary Clinton.
The company makes it proud.
Multi-Grammy Award winner John Legend has joined the producing team of the hit Broadway musical Ain't Too Proud. He recently joined the cast backstage at the Imperial Theater. Legend performed several of the hits by The Temptations alongside the Broadway cast at this year's Tony Awards. The glitzy and glamorous Tony Award-winning show is now back on Broadway, and taking over the role as Satine is Natalie Mendoza. Charlie Cooper caught up with the new star of Moulin Rouge.
Thanks, Tamsen. Natalie Mendoza is Moulin Rouge's new sparkling diamond. I sat down with her at the Renaissance Hotel to talk about joining the company of the hit show. This is so much of a full circle moment for you. You were in the film, and now you're on stage. What's that like for you? Does it kind of feel nostalgic? Do you feel like there are parts of being a part of the movie that you kind of brought to the stage? Or talk about that.
So it's funny, most people don't realize, but I actually auditioned for the role of Satine when I auditioned for the film. So many years ago, Baz was casting for, the role, and so I ended up doing a workshop at Baz's house. And in that workshop, there are so many moments that made it into the film. You know, there are moments where she's looking into the mirror that we kind of just improvised. Even the Nini's beautiful tango was something that I improvised to the Song of Roxanne in the workshop. And so there are all these beautiful moments that we planted the seeds in that sort of improvisation. And to be in this production and realize that there are all these gorgeous moments that sort of found their way onto the stage, it's sort of, there are so many times where I'm having like this out-of-body experience. To suddenly be able to do this is completely wild, and also be surrounded by the team of creatives who I've worked with before. It's just so beautiful.
I know that Moulin Rouge had a really successful Tony Award season. How does it feel to step into this role as Satine? Do you feel like there's a pressure to really live up to something?
I think one could feel pressure, but I think there's something about the way life has prepared me. Many people don't know this either, but I was a monk for a while, for quite some time. So One of the things that I've tried to master within myself is the practice of not being too attached to anything. So not being attached to even what people think. Caring about people, but not allowing myself to be defined by the opinions of others, right? So here is a great opportunity to see if I can really do that. And it's just, I think I do it just by showing up every day in my vulnerability, in my messiness, allowing myself to be messy during the rehearsal period, and just finding who she is authentically. And that's sort of how I always approach a role. And in that way, it takes all that sort of, unneeded pressure.
So people say all the time, you can't be what you can't see. And you, as a woman of Asian descent, being Satine, what does that representation mean to you, and what do you hope it means to people who are looking on?
I think, at the time, I loved that Baz even considered me many years ago. So he's always ahead of the curve. He was always, I believe he auditioned many actresses of color, even way back then. So that was always part of his vision. The world may have not been ready for it, but the world is ready now. And to feel the support and the love is so glorious. And it really touches my heart when I get these sort of messages on Instagram from young, aspiring Asian actresses, or just, audience members that are always comment on this. To be able to incorporate that into this is super important. And I also, the way I developed my character, I didn't want to ignore my ethnicity. So the character history that I created as I stepped into the role, I keep my Asianness with me, I find little ways to demonstrate it.
Oscar nominee Greg Kinnear is finally ready to make his Broadway debut in To Kill a Mockingbird. He's taking over the role of Atticus Finch in early January. Until then, Jeff Daniels remains in the part. Aaron Sorkin's play just resumed performances last month. Kinnear, by the way, was just a month away from playing Atticus in 2020 until the pandemic shut Broadway down. There's still a whole lot more to talk about on this edition of The Broadway Show. Preparing to explode on Netflix, it's Tick, Tick, Boom. You'll get to know Robin De Jesus. The Broadway Show is back in just a couple of minutes. Out this month on Netflix, it's Tick, Tick, Boom.
I have an original rock musical.
Hey, boy genius.
That I have spent the last 8 years of my life writing.
It's getting out. You're gonna be rich and famous.
And rewriting.
Did you crack it yet?
Oh, I'm getting so close. And rewriting.
Can I hear it?
Any day now.
Tony winner Andrew Garfield stars as Jonathan Larson, the creator of Rent. Tick, Tick, Boom also marks Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut and features a cast of other amazing Broadway veterans. Paul Wontorek caught up with another of the great stars of Tick, Tick, Boom, stage and screen veteran Robin De Jesus.
In Tick, Tick, Boom, Robin De Jesus plays Michael, best friend of Rent composer Jonathan Larson. In real life, the three-time Tony nominee has special connections to both Rent and the film's director, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I met up with him at the Rum House to find out more.
Are you letting yourself be led by fear or by love? Fear, 100% fear.
How does it feel to be premiering this movie, which is such a labor of love for so many people, including you, including Lynn, and how does it feel to be able to tell this story to everybody?
It feels really good. It feels like here and here and here. It's really beautiful. Like Lynn's my ride or die, his family. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like that other thing that we have that connection. And I hadn't worked with him in a minute. So coming back to this was just like, it was very cooing. It was very like familial and very healing. But then like the piece itself is just so beautiful, and it's full circle through Lynn, it's full circle through Rent. That's my Broadway debut.
Right, I want to talk about that. What did it mean for you to be in Rent? And this Tick, Tick, Boom is really telling the story of Jonathan Larson before Rent. It's his origin story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a privilege to tell Jonathan's story. He was so influential over so many of us. Like Lynn wouldn't have written In the Heights without Jonathan. Right. I wouldn't have made my Broadway debut without him. I wouldn't have focus on the lyrics of there's only us, there's only this, there's only now, and the importance of being present. I'm really grateful that I get to be a part of this and add my jazz and my flavor and my swag to it and contribute. And I think it's gonna be really beautiful and very healing.
You really came into your own in the Heights. which was obviously Lin-Manuel Miranda's first Broadway blockbuster. Obviously, you were working with him then as a co-star, and he wrote the show, but what is it like to now have him be the director of the film? He's making his directorial debut with the film.
It was very organic. It was, I will say there was a part of Robin, because this is my friend and a fellow creative that I've worked with before, but I've never seen him with this responsibility.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful to watch your friend be even more brilliant than you ever imagined. I remember there was a day where he came up with a shot on the fly that was so cool, and I watched everyone go like, wait, what do you want, what do you want? And then he used his words, he said it, and they did it, and everyone was like, whoa, that was so cool. And like, just for me as an onlooker observing everything, just to watch him like handle that, you know, was like really, really cool. And I was like, I'm trying to be that energy. I'm trying to be a boss too, you know? So it's infectious.
This is the life of
Bohemia. Tick Tick Boom is based on a solo show that Jonathan Larson was performing that was very autobiographical before Rent. And you play Michael, and I know Andrew Garfield plays Jonathan Larson in the film, and it's really turned more into, feels like it's turned more into sort of like a biopic about him.
I don't know if it's genuinely the new screenplay or the going back to that original source, but I now am so much more aware of like the centeredness of my relationship with Jonathan, in the sense that like, yeah, there's the love story with Jonathan and Susan, but there's also the love story with Michael. There's like this other thing happening of like, you get to see these two men navigate their love for one another that is completely not romantic, one of whom is completely straight and one of whom is totally gay. And they just love. They love hard and they love healthily. And so it's like, it's really cool to watch that love story.
What are people gonna get when they click on this movie?
I think what they're gonna get out of it is like, especially after a year where we have just faced mortality every single day. And our movie takes place during the crack and AIDS epidemic. It was the same thing. It's like, you go outside and death is inescapable and that's depressing. But like there's this one question that keeps coming up throughout all of our actions and all of our intentions. Are my questions and my answers coming from a place of fear or love? And like keep going back to that. And the time periods where things fall apart tend to be where we lean into the fear more. And the moments where we feel a little better and perhaps less achy and sometimes quite joyous and amazing, it's like when we choose love. And so I'd like to think that after the past year, the movie's gonna be reminders like, well, what are you focusing on, fear or love?
Cages or wings, which do you prefer?
Ask the birds, baby.
Harlem-based actress and playwright Jocelyn Bio is back with her latest uplifting comedy. It's called Nollywood Dreams. Set in the 90s, it's about an aspiring Nigerian actress who also works at her family's travel agency. Charlie's here with the story.
Thanks, Tamsen. The multi-talented Jocelyn Bio is finally bringing Nollywood Dreams to the stage. We met at the MCC Theater to discuss that and so much more. Your baby, Nollywood Dreams, was so close to coming to life right before the pandemic happened. Talk a little bit about what that feeling was like to know that those 2 months that you thought you would return by turned into a year and a half and now you're here. What does it feel like for you?
It's twofold. It feels a little surreal because, you know, we walked back into the room just a few days ago to start rehearsal again, and everything was as it was when we left it. You know, the scripts were still there, the props, some of the costume pieces were still there, so it's kind of like the rapture had happened. Also, it just felt like kind of warm and fuzzy inside, you know, kind of Christmas morning. Like, yay, we get to be able to unwrap this present and really be able to, like, you know, play with it and have fun with it and do it again.
Can you tell our audience what it's about?
Nollywood Dreams could honestly be called Hollywood Dreams. It's about a young ingenue who's trying to break into the business. She auditions for a new hot movie that's coming out, and her and like a fading actress kind of go head to head for the lead role. And so comedy and drama ensue after that. But kind of baked into the story is also an immigrant narrative of what it's like trying to come to America, trying to pursue your, you know, American dreams, your Hollywood dreams, and what happens when reality, you know, sets in.
Can you kind of talk about, for those who aren't particularly familiar with this art form, why should they come and see it?
You know, the thing about Nollywood, which is the kind of nickname for the Nigerian or West African film industry, is that it's such a unique and kind of melodramatic, but like interesting, you know, kind of film genre. So it's just so unique and worldwide and international. And so I just want to introduce people who maybe are not as familiar to come and see what the world is like, kind of see a different kind or subsect genre of film, and kind of learn to have an appreciation for what the industry is like outside of America.
And that's going to do it for us. Until next time, I'm Tamsen Fadal, and this is The Broadway Show.